Right. So this is where generally this data object creation is what something we do whenever we are working on the Pega application. Because Pega, as we all know, I have given an introduction about Pega. Pega is a business process management tool to manage business processes and all, etc. In this regard, it's always important for us to update multiple users whenever they were using and what is that they were using and all. At the same time, creation of data objects followed by adding libraries, right? So channel, these sort of things is what something which we need to know. So in this regard, I am taking different objects over here. So in this regard, I am taking one data object name, which is called fields, right? So define the source data. So which is of later I have just created. Next, we need to click on next, right? So here, if you want to create any kind of data models and all, we have three different options. Data can be created manually, but maybe for small data purposes that can be done, right? So that is one thing. Second, apart from that, we can use even spreadsheets also, because whatever the existing spreadsheets which was already created by us, that can be used as well. At the same time, we can use an option for autopilot option so that whatever the required data models you wants to create can also be done, right? So here, manual creation, because there won't be much data, because manually how much data will be updated, okay? So that we can do it later. So let me check out using autopilot to suggest the data model is what something which I am selecting, right? So that what kind of data models are something really useful is for that, because in Pega we have an option to select autopilot mode, so that whatever the required data models to be suggested, data models to be selected, everything will be identified by that. That is one thing which normally we do it. So this is what generally the suggested fields in context to the uh, data model is concerned we have taken, right? So here we need to be updated all the required information. For example, purchase order number. Okay, let's say for example, purchase order number is 12345. Right? This is what something which I have taken. Right. So what kind of text type is this? This is what something which we need to be used here. Okay, because is it a single line or text paragraph, or it's a boolean, or it's a date, a decimal, right? So integer, all that stuff. That's what something which we have to be used over. Okay, so this is what generally, because name we have taken the number, that's the reason why I have selected integer over here, right? So here we need to select, right? So Mr. Raj is what generally the number I have used it. So here when we are going to select it, we need to identify what kind of selector it. So I am selecting the text single line, right? So single line, Raj is an ID number was taken. And what are the line items do we have? So the line items number we have to be updated. So I am selecting 10 is in line item number, where I am selecting integer for that, right? So integer for that I am selecting, right? So here we need to provide what are the required ID numbers and all, everything has to be given, right? So provided we need to provide some ID number, all that stuff. That is what something we have to provide. Okay, that is what something which we have to be done. Next, requested by whom and all, everything, right? So who has requested, what was the request date, delivery address, all that stuff. So once it is completed, if you are clicking on it, automatically, because of the autopilot option we have selected to update the data, so all the required data can be updated in this regard. So this is what and how usually when we are working on business process management of Pega is what something which we can do it. At the same time, when you are creating the data models as is stated here, we have an option for manual. Means if you want to update any manual data, if you want to create any kind of data model using an option for manual and all, so we can select even manual option even. So this is what the option called manual is what something which I have selected, right? So means if you want to update any kind of data objects or something of that sort, those data objects and all everything can be added to the existing ones. Here you can see there is no data form. Means if you want to create any kind of add fields, or if you want to create any kind of fields or something of that sort, here you can see there is an option for add fields. So we need to add all the required fields, whatever we have, followed by the text line item, what we have, etc. over here. All these things has to be updated in the add fields here. Followed by this, there will be an application layer where you have to apply the filters. This is where generally the filter creation is what something which we have to be updated. So when we are working on the Pega application, as far as the implementation role is concerned, how to create filters and how to add the fields, all the stuff has to be updated in this regard. So this is also one of the core and important element, one to be focused more. Right, so this is what and how generally this data models, everything can be created. So this is one kind of when we are working on the application, this is one thing which we have to be updated in regular intervals, so that what are the required data models do we have and all everything can be updated. So that whenever we want to create any kind of fields, or if you want to create any kind of data, or else if you want to create any kind of primary fields, because configuration is one of the key and important element. Because do remember, Pega is a application which was already existed, right? So we are not developing anything from the scratch. But what we are doing is that whatever the required configuration has to be mentioned, whatever the required configuration has to be performed, that required configuration, we can do that. That is all something which normally can be done, right? So means if you want to add any kind of primary fields to the existing ones, right? So either it can be saving a date time, or it can be creating the date time or operators. All these things can be updated. That's what and how usually this data models and all everything are being used extensively when we are working on the projects, especially when we are working on the data objects and all. This is what something which normally we do. Next, user management. User management, where you want to add multiple users. So once the users we have added and all, there are possibilities where user access management can be given here. We need to provide the user value, right? So we need to provide the username, right? So for example, user 2, right? So I'm just given in value called user 2, right? So description, I'm just writing something, right? So I'm just writing something description, and I'm just clicking on it. So that this is where and how generally there are multiple users, whoever we have. So we need to use different users over here, right? So here we have selected user 2, wherein we have selected, let me open it. Okay, right. So this is where generally user 2 is what something which we have created, where we need to provide an access, right? So whatever the required configuration you want to be done, or else if you want to create any kind of data objects for the existing ones, right? So if you want to add anything of that sort, or if you want to add any kind of case types to the existing application what we are using, or else if there is any kind of configuration sets we have to be updated. For example, email channel configuration is what something which we have to be updated over here. Or else if you want to create any kind of generative AI, right? So these are all for the setting purposes, right? So configuration access to the email, right? So wherein what kind of access are we going to provide for the particular user? Is it for opening purpose? Means so that people can see this email, all that. Else or else modify, right? Means the user will have a permission to modify it. At the same time, user will have a permission to delete that as well, right? So these are the different aspects which will be there whenever we are working on the configuration, especially when we are working on the application. This is what something which normally being into application level when we are working on is what something which normally we have to be performed here. So this is what and how generally this data model creations and all everything we do. In the next session, I am going to discuss about the user management followed by the libraries. At the same time, which is more important, is all about the settings, right? So project settings, all that stuff that I'm going to discuss it in tomorrow's session, in the next session. Okay. Thank you.